What's going on, guys? Good night to everybody who's here. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight we have a very special segment. It's called Man versus Machine: The Dragster Trials. For everyone who's new to this, we have here an accusation being made that Todd Rogers' record is impossible to beat, which it is, because it beats the time of a computer that was simulated to do a perfect run based on the standard parameters of the code built for the computer, which comes up with a record of 554. Todd Rogers was able to use his skill, what we call this the human element, and perform the strategy with one of his tricks, and he was able to beat the computer with a 551. So the gentleman here is called Omni Gamer. Let me give you guys a little preface to the whole thing. There's a story on Kotaku about it, and it talks about the whole thing. I'll just give you, let me give you the preface. It says the current world record for the Atari 2600 racing game Dragster is a 551 in terms of seconds. 35 years after it was set, nobody has beaten or even tied it on an official leaderboards. One of the speedrunners who examined the game's inner working believes that the world record to be impossible, which, to be honest with you, it is impossible. Um, but the game creator thinks it's legitimate. Now, this is this I can't get over this part. The game's creator thinks it's legitimate, but someone who's a speedrun examiner thinks it's illegitimate. Anyway, for now, the Dragster record is one of the great unsolved mysteries of the golden age of video games. Released in 1980 by Activision, Dragster was a pioneering publisher, first for the game and so forth. And the scores keeping organization Twin Galaxies also recognizes the competitive gamer named Todd Rogers for his recording that time of 551. So, for those who don't know, Todd Rogers is a legacy gamer for EMP, legacy, classic, retro, whatever. He plays the old school games, but he also plays some of the new school games for EMP as well. He goes to conventions. He was last at the Midwest Atlantic gaming convention, and he did some events there and stuff like that. So he travels around, and he's one of the elder gods of the classic gaming scene. He's one of the guys, who helped really solidify the scene in terms of being out there in the media to represent classic gamers. Guys like Ben Gold, Todd Rogers, Billy Mitchell, Joe West, Steve Sanders, Walter Day, obviously, and the whole crew. Those guys always have been out there to push competitive gaming since the early days when there was no infrastructure for it. In fact, those guys are like the people who kind of set that infrastructure into place. So now, 35 years later, there's a speedrunner examiner who's questioning his record, thinking it's false. And what he did was he created a spreadsheet, which in a sense, if you want to really talk about it, it's an emulator. It's not even the actual console or the cartridge or the joystick. It's an virtual emulator. So it has to virtually resimulate everything of the physical game. And based on those linear codes, which are set by a parameter, which does not require that, which does not take into any consideration any outside element that can interfere with the code. And based on that, he says the record is illegitimate. And I'm just baffled that how someone can just look at just that one perspective and not just be so narrow-minded to see it from only that perspective. And as a gamer, just because people find these little glitches and stuff like that in well, not necessarily glitches, but just because people say this is the code, that's it. Like, have we all not watched The Matrix? Just because you can see the code doesn't mean you can bend or break the code. There's a word for this. It's called anomaly. These things can happen, aka glitches. Like, come on. So here, you guys jump in on this situation. What do you think about this whole situation?
I think it's completely stupid. Like it's just nonsense. Like how can somebody accuse somebody of cheating just because they beat a computer? I mean, technically, wasn't the computer created by a person in the first place?
Yes, it was.
So, like, I mean, technically, even the computer has to have limits itself because it's created by people. So, I mean,
Well, this is true to a degree, and it's there are things that's flawed in games that PCs or computers or whatever you want to call. I'm not an expert on this, and although we do have a software and hardware engineer in here, Zuru. And first, let me introduce the cast to everybody. So where I'm joined, I'm not here by myself. I'm joined with Black Poldrin, Katarina, Hans, Nintendo, Nintendo, and Zuru. These are guys that are part of the Empire Arcadia community, and um, they're here to kind of weigh in on the subject. And I actually, Super Nintendo, let me hold you on the side for a moment. Let me get Zero's take on this because he actually read the articles and he has done some extensive research on it, and I think he can better frame the entire situation for us to comment on. So the floor is yours, Zero.
Right. So the real issue here is that just one random guy in the internet just come here and say, "Hey, your score is not legit" or something, just because it's basing something on a spreadsheet, quote unquote spreadsheet, like Microsoft spreadsheet, like calculator spreadsheet, which doesn't really make sense on how why you make a spreadsheet. It's trying to make a proof point, but it really doesn't. Uh, like you said, I've been doing like extensive research on this. I've been looking at the whole schematics for the motherboard of the Atari 2600 that was used back in the day. I've been trying to find information regarding hardware, glitches, emulators, and stuff like that. So we pretty much got a solid answer here about what this guy actually claims.
So what is the basis of his claims? Because I know that he stated that based on his calculations on this coding on the spreadsheet, that Todd's it is impossible to reach that record based on the parameters that he set up, which I spoke to Todd directly, and he's like, "Yeah, of course, because that's not how I did it." And I was like, "Yeah, well, we know that." So I was like, "Is he saying that because it's not done his way that it's illegitimate?" And Tom's like, I don't know what he's saying. He's basing this on an emulator, and I don't know who here has played emulator games, but I played my fair share of emulator games versus the actual console games. And just to give you an example, I just want to give you guys a hypothetical situation. 100 years from now, console games become obsolete. The machines required to operate the consoles don't work 100 years from now. So we're talking about we're in the year 2217, right? Everything is holographic and someone still has the original code to the Super Mario Brothers game on the NES, right? Now, we all know that there's in the NES version and also in the arcade version, the versus Super Mario, there's a glitch that allows you to jump through the walls of World 1, 2 in the tunnel stage. And that activates the warp stage of the minus world, the zero negative world, right? Okay. Now, in the newer versions of Super Mario Brothers, I think it was the one that they made for the Nintendo Wii, the 25th anniversary of the Mario World. I'm not too sure which one of the All Star game versions of the Mario's that they made. They remade the Mario with the new 16-bit graphics that looks like the Super Nintendo version of the game, right? Now, when you try to do the trick, it doesn't work. 100 years from now, someone is going to be playing that version of Mario, and when someone tells them, "Oh, there's a negative minus world," right? Let's say the data for all the information for the negative minus world no longer exists. No one's even using any of the primitive 100 years ago technology to store any of that information. But testimonies from people who've physically done it, people who've grown up, they're like 90 years old. "Oh, I know about that glitch. I did that glitch when I was a kid, and blah, blah, blah. I'm 97 years old." And the reason why I made that comparison is because of this. This is the crazy part. Listen to this, guys. The guy Omni Gamer says he doesn't care who was there to witness it. The Pope could have been there to witness it. It based on his calculations, it cannot be done in, and that they are all lying, including the programmer of the game. Your thoughts on that, please?
That is absolute nonsense.
It's ludicrous, complete just
Yeah, it's like
nonsense.
ridiculous.
I
But
mean,
but
he's
You're
why?
basically
basically
you're basically telling you're basically saying it doesn't matter if I have proof or not. What I say goes, and you're a liar. End of discussion. It doesn't matter if the creator of the game is there. It doesn't matter if like Twin Galaxies. Doesn't matter if say Guinness was there to record it themselves. It doesn't matter if he'd done it on like the actual legitimate console and game. He's wrong. He's a cheater. End of discussion.
You need substantial. You need some kind of foundation to base such a claim. If he can't prove it, then I don't know why he's talking.
Well, according to his spreadsheet, he created a code. He stated something about. I didn't read too much into him. Well, I'm kind of annoyed that he even brought it up because it's like, all right, come on, it's almost as if it's like a witch hunt. First of all, the guy's writing a book, and this book is based on some these findings of like impossible records that will never be broken in time or whatever the case may be. And it just feels like he's really hunting down this particular record to get this record expunged out of Guinness. And if you read the article really brings up something that a lot of people are not even familiar with, and that this isn't necessarily a Twin Galaxies record. It actually is because it's in the Twin Galaxies database. But what I mean by it's not a Twin Galaxies record, I'm talking about in its in its origin. Originally, this record belonged to Activision. I've done some talks with Todd. We're working some stuff out with Todd on the side where Todd will actually we're working on a platform where Todd can get the full extent, in-depth details of the entire legacy behind his Dragster record and what happened and so forth. And I don't want to kind of ruin that for him because I don't have his permission to really talk about that. But what I can say is this: is that originally when he was going for the record, uh, he never submitted the record to Guinness. This is the big mistake that's being made, like a big mistake that's being made. It's going around. People calling Todd a liar for going to Guinness with the record, but Todd did not go to Guinness with the record. Todd set the record, and to get himself in recognized by Activision, he submitted evidence to Activision, the evidence that Activision required him to submit. That then made Activision go, "Oh wow!" And they so happened to be having an event, and Todd Rogers went down there to play a bunch of other Activision games. In fact, it's kind of funny because there's an actual video of Channel 7 News that's actually you know that that shows him actually playing. One second. So he's actually playing one of the games in the background, and throughout that entire time that he's actually playing the games in the background, one of those games that he was playing is Dragster, and he never went there with the intention of beating the score. He went there with the intention of just playing all of the Activision games, and he just so happened to beat the score in a live audience. After that, then he was invited to do it again, and that was I think in Detroit based on what he said. And when he after that, that is when Activision submitted the credentials to Guinness, and then the record was then awarded to Todd. Later on, Todd submitted the credentials that was required by Twin Galaxies to get his record in Twin Galaxies. So there's a big discrepancy here where people are thinking that he set the record, he contacted Twin Galaxies to get the record put into Twin Galaxies. He didn't submit any credentials. Bam, Twin Galaxies just gave it to him, and Guinness just gave it to him, and that is not the case. And it's actually in the story. You can see how people can get confused by it, but yeah, that's how it is going. So now the guy Omni Gamer, because of his pursuit, I don't want to call it persecution, but in a sense it's like persecution because of his persecution to get the record expunged because his calculations cannot prove that the record is there. It created this whole story that's like completely misrepresenting the reality and the truth of what actually happened with Todd. And now I'm reading the comments and people are like, he's a cheater, he's a liar, he doesn't deserve the record. And it's like, what did he lie about? He didn't lie about anything. And it's like what really comes into question is A, the machine, B, Activision, C, Guinness. Those are the three people that comes into question. And that's kind of stupid to question the people that went through the most to make at that time based on those credentials to make sure that you had to have these things in play. And that's where I think this guy's fundamentally wrong. What you guys thoughts on that?
It's
I just think
extremely
it's
biased.
biased all day.
By doing this, like, he's calling out this record, and because, just like normally you'd think, all right, maybe I can see where somebody might come over and say that might not be possible, but when you find out that he's writing a book, it's pretty obvious that because of what his book actually is about, he's clearly trying to get not only publicity on himself but on his book to make more sales as well.
Do you think this entire thing is based on him trying to sell a book? Like, do
Very
you
possibly. Very possibly.
what's your thoughts, Hans?
I mean, I think it's honestly, I mean, you can't necessarily say it's all about just trying to sell a book. It might be some legitimacy into what he's trying to do, but at the end of the day, we all know that negativity sells, controversy sells, and the fact that, I mean, that's the only thing you're really hearing about is that he's trying to like discredit this record. It's nothing else as good has been positive been talked about the book or anything. He's just trying to cause controversy to sell a book. It's no different than the media.
You gotta understand, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Even if people are dogging on you, people are still looking at you and still checking you out, even if it's because they get a negative connotation of what you're doing. So
See, I too have I've had this issue. So let me give you guys a similar example of something that happens because a lot of these guys that go for world records, or some of these guys who both new and old, who are trying to I'll use a terminology Yipes used to say to me, IFC Yipes, Street Fighter, Marvel versus Capcom World Champion, and he says you have a lot of guys who, when they play video games, their entire thing is to try to come up off gamers that have already established themselves rather than them trying to invent themselves. And what I mean by that is that these guys are like I played this game called Tetris Ultimate for the 3DS, right? And I was just playing and I was listening to last year's it was 2015 actually. 2015's was it 2015 or 2016? It's definitely some at some point last year if not last year 2015. But I was listening to the G20 summit meeting at my friend Rion's house here in Jamaica, and I was just playing the game. And what happened is when I was playing the game, I just randomly got an all clear, and the computer at the master level was at the lowest part of the no, the highest part of the screen. And when I did the all clear, it does a double damage. Boom, he died. And when I noticed the time, I was like, well, this was kind of quick. So I went. There's a stat selection screen after each game you play. You can check the stat of your game to see what your status and your results were and how good you played that game. And I beat the computer in like 7 something seconds. Now the game was still running. I quickly got out my camera. I did a whole video on it. I put the video up on my YouTube page, right? Just so that I can have some type of evidence live that, hey, look, I got the time. I tried to submit that record to Twin Galaxies, and dude, this is crazy. Guys said, nope, we have to actually physically see you do it, or it doesn't count. We believe you did it, but we have to see you do it. And I would rather them just say, "Nah, I don't believe you because we need to see it done," than to patronize me with such foolishness by saying that stupid comment. We believe you did it, but we need to see you do it. What? And the reason why I bring this up in lieu of Todd Rogers is that sometimes, when you go for a record or when you obtain a record, you actually don't, it's not you going for it. It's you just playing the game and it just so happens to have happened. That's it. And what these guys, what some people are out there, if you guys read the comment, are proposing, and this is one of the major points I want to get to. People are proposing that he redo the record again 35 years later in his 50s. And if he cannot get the score, then they say he should lose the score. I really want to know what you guys' opinions on that before I get into that.
When was the last time he even played Dragster?
Honestly, I don't know. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. And what do you mean by play Dragster? Do you mean casually, professionally?
At any rate, he's not conditioned.
But I've seen some people write some stuff and they're telling that some people are like, well, he should be able to reproduce that record again.
I
Now,
think they're being completely unrealistic.
Yeah. Like,
Also, if we're going off of the original topic here, the man, I still don't. How many references does he have on that spreadsheet? Because this is getting into like the ludicrous territory here. They want him to repeat the record, and we don't even have a legitimate source of reference for the spreadsheet that this one guy did.
oh no, there's a spreadsheet. There's an actual video where there's a video by I think it's Easy Gamer or something like that. It almost has a
Mhm.
million views on the actual topic regarding the actual like the whole thing. And I thought the piece was kind of unfair because the person suggested in the video that the record should be removed if they can't. He didn't have it. He didn't have uh, uh, an objective view of it where you would question the record, but then you leave it at just a question. The person went out of their way to state that because if he can't provide any proof today, that he should lose a record he set 35 years ago. And that to me, you know what I think about stuff like that when people use media to manipulate and create suggestive narratives in the thoughts of people's minds about a bunch of stuff. So it's like, are you kidding me? Nah, that really shouldn't be done. So it's like I used this analogy earlier. I said that's like someone, let's say 40 years from now, come and say, hey, um, Michael Jordan, I heard you scored 69 points in a no, I'll use a better person. Wilt Chamberlain, I heard you scored 100 points in basketball before. Now, this is the funny thing. There is no NBA footage of Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100 points in basketball. Did y'all know that? Anyone know that? Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. Does anyone know that?
I did not know that.
Okay, so yeah.
honestly, I know.
So Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points, but it was a game that was played off air and the time that he played the game. That's like saying 50 years from now, no, maybe not even 50 years from now. Let's say 10 years from now, because I think Wilt Chamberlain's still alive, if not, if anything. And they say, hey, Wilt, I don't really think you scored 100 points in the video in that your actual real life basketball game, because no one has ever scored 100 points in a basketball game before. David Robinson came close with like 80, I think Kobe 89 or something like that. Kobe did like 81 or something like that. Those are the closest guys I've gotten the scores from what I recollect. But Wilt Chamberlain has 100 points, and they go, in order to prove you scored 100 points in the NBA, we need you to come out of retirement now, physical, and you need to produce 100 points again. What? That's literally what they're asking Todd to do. 35 years later, now Todd, don't get me wrong, because I don't want to give this narrative that Todd no longer has the skill to play the video games. I'm sure Todd has the skill to still play video games, but we all know as gamers, with age, our skills degrade. This is just the reality. Some of us can still what's the word for this, we can still keep up with the best of them. We still have the skill, we can still compete, but we're not at that championship level that we used to be at, where we used to hone our mind, eye, hand, and coordination. All of that was in tune. It's no longer razor sharp. It's sharp, it's just not razor sharp anymore. Reflexes and everything, thumb reaction, no, these things, we know those things have degraded over time. To how much? Some people degrade faster than others degrade slower than others. Fine. But it is I'm not making an assumption. I can guarantee that Todd Rogers' ability has degraded. His overall ability in video games has degraded over the years. Can he still play? Of course, he can still play. Is he as good as he used to be when he was younger? Of course not. So it is just completely asinine to ask the man to redo what he did 35 years ago when he met the criteria of what it required for him to get the records in the record book by the standards of the industry. We're talking Guinness World Record here. We're talking about Activision and Twin Galaxies. He met the criteria of all three companies back then, and now it's being questioned, and he has to redo it, or else what? And it's oh my goodness, the classic gamers are crazy, me. This is why I am so glad I am going into the Hall of Fame. I cannot deal with the pettiness. This is real pettiness. Like, come on, like really, does this really mean so much? And the way this guy is going hardcore over it, we're like, yo, can't you just voice your opinion and just agree to disagree and just move on? It's one thing you want to write a book, you want to say scores delegitimate, not a problem. But this, well, I think it's illegitimate, so his record should be removed. That's when it becomes an oppressive situation or some type of persecution or a witch hunt. It's like, no, he did it live in front of an audience. You were not there. That's your problem. Take that up with God, and whatever the case may be, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. But to want the person's record removed because you were not there, that's like me today saying I was not there when Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in a basketball game. I don't believe it. I think it should be removed. The only way I'm going to believe it is that Wilt Chamberlain needs to play today's basketball with today's rules on today's courts, with today's ball on the new hardwood, on the new rim, with the new 3-point line, with the new rules, not based on any of the things back in the days when the balls were different, the density of the ball was completely different, the rules were completely changed, the hardwood, the sneakers, all of that stuff, all of those things are changed. They're all different versus what they are. Yes, overall, the game is 99.9% the same in terms of the core of the game, but the game has changed. But because we don't think he can do it in today's time, that means he didn't do it then. That's the foolishness that we're talking about right now. And you guys, so I'm going to pose a question to you like this, right? Do you think Todd Rogers should replay the game again in this day and age? And if he can't get the score, then it should be removed from Guinness. We'll start with Katarina.
Absolutely not. I think you should keep it. Like, he did score this in front of a live audience, right? So, like, why are you making a big deal about it?
Twice.
If there's, like,
Twice. He did it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, that's ridiculous. You should just keep it.
Okay. We'll go to Hans.
He definitely doesn't have to do it. If he's done it over a live audience and people have actually seen it been done, then there's no reason to come back and do it. That's just no.
Okay. Zuru.
You should keep it. Like, no, it's already shown in live audience twice, and besides, it's already like certificated by Twin Galaxies and Guinness. It's like saying that, oh, you are not reliable in like checking the methods or checking stuff about if it's this legitimate or not. And even so, Activision did so. So that is just no.
That's crazy because he is calling into question the legitimacy of Twin Galaxies,
Exactly.
Activision, and Guinness. That's the crazy part. Like in the hood, we'd say, "Who you?" That's the first question we buy. Who are you? According to something I read, he has a background in software engineering, whatever, and that's fine. Not saying that the man doesn't know his work, but he's not the only expert, and he's not the definitive expert. So his methods in trying to come up with this a way to delegitimize a score based on his findings is not definitive evidence, or what they call empirical evidence, or whatever the case may be. Super Nintendo, your thoughts?
Okay, so before I give my thoughts, I just have like a confirmation question. I believe at one point you said that he did this 3 times, correct?
Yes, but he did it 3 times, but I can't remember for sure what the actual from I spoke to Todd earlier, and he told me this was done 3 times. He done it 3 times live. I the ones that I remember in the conversation was one in Chicago and one in Detroit. That's what he told me. I don't know what the third one is because I can't remember. And this is a sensitive situation, so all people are going to be watching this, and all information is important. We don't want to miscommunicate anything.
You know what? And that's fine. That, like, I
Mm.
just need to confirm that you did say that he had completed it 3 times live. So basically, what kind of person is going to go 35 years later to a man who completed this record 3 times in front of live audiences, was recognized by the creators of the game, Guinness and Twin Galaxies, as the record holder for this game? They're going to go back 35 years, say that a record is not legitimate, and that somebody now who's trying to move on with their life and continue on and do better things now and focus on things in the current time, they're going to dredge back their past 35 years over a record that doesn't even matter anymore.
Well, actually, the record does matter
Well,
because
like the fact that like whether he did it or not, it's irrelevant because like it was 35. 3 audiences saw him do it. The creators of the game, like all these people, said yes, he did it. We wrote it, threw it down in the records. That should be the end of it. Who is this guy that's coming in here 35 years later trying to get some dude to do it? It's like, not only is his skill degraded, he's got more to focus on than something he did 35 years ago. He doesn't. I mean, yeah, that record's important, but like he's got other things he needs to do now. Trying to make him like just he can't be just known about that record all his life. Like when you're trying to build a career out of something, you don't want to be known for just one thing. You want to be known for multiple things. And somebody trying to bring that back and constantly just like push him back to that point is just stupid.
yes, and as you can see in the thumbnail that we have, and even here on our main screen here, that is the actual official original world record by Guinness to Todd Rogers when he first set the 551, and the actual record is actually called Man versus Computer, which I call Man versus Machine, but it shouldn't be Man versus Machine because I think that's the chess guys, Blue versus Kasparov. I'm not too sure if I mispronounced it, but like, yeah, but it's man versus computer, and that's the original record. And a new record was created for him to celebrate the 30th anniversary of that record when it came out in September 1st or 2nd of 2012, and then Guinness gave him that one. So yeah. Let me go to the next person. So we'll end it off with Black Poldrin. Black Poldrin, your extensive thoughts on why you think that Todd Rogers, if Todd Rogers should or should not redo the record all over again.
Okay, first of all, my obvious answer is no, he should not.
Okay, we got that, and why? And why?
I just wanted to get that out of the way. One, I'm still curious as to where the legitimacy of the spreadsheet's coming from. I want to know why it's just this man alone fighting this battle to get Todd Rogers' record reviewed. What was my other point here? Jeez, I forgot the last point, but my first two that I'm trying to address here.
I'm sorry, we had lost you for a second. Go on.
Sorry. Basically, I'm very concerned about the legitimacy of the spreadsheet, and I want to know why. Outside of the book deal, like there's certainly more motivation here than just. I'm going to give the guy the benefit of the doubt and say he's really trying to make sure everything. But out of the woodworks, why? What is all this? He did it in front. We've talked about this before, and I know that he's done it in front of people. Several authenticated groups have confirmed that he did it, so I don't understand why all of these are coming into question by one person.
And that's the thing. And let's go into that for a second, because I actually want to save a little bit of time, like an extra 15 minutes, because I want to get some of the guys in our community to chime in on their thoughts about the entire situation when we're done with the topic. But one of the things that that was brought to my attention was that uh, he's the only one questioning this. There are a lot of other programmers who specialize in the field of emulators and stuff like that, who are actually, I don't want to say debunking, because that's a little bit too much of a harsh word. But they're also contesting his thing. So his his I'm trying to find the word here. Him advocating for the record to be false or impossible. And to be, let me play devil's advocate for a second, because I don't want to sit here and say he actually I don't want to sit here and say that he didn't he's actually sitting there and he's accusing Todd Rogers of cheating or he's lying or whatever, because I've carefully read some of the stuff that he says, and nowhere does he says he's accusing Todd Rogers of cheating and lying that I've seen yet. But the suggestion is there. But what he's saying is that the score and the time is impossible to get, because the computer can't do it. So because the computer can't do it, a human can't do it. And that's that. Like I said, this is why I said earlier that he has a narrow-minded view of things. Because just because a computer can't do it does not mean a human being can do it. Can't do it. Like, there's something called the human element. And like, they said, based on some type of algorithm program posted about the fastest human being can run at 27.8 miles per hour. That's the fastest a human can go. Well, clearly, human evolution is the human element. And 100 years from now, no, they're going to break 28 or 27 miles. They're going to go into like 30 miles an hour. And that what our computers have told us 100 years prior to that is incorrect. He's not giving any space. He's not creating any margin for these type of elements to take place, such as what's the word for this, anomalies, glitches. He's just saying, based on my research alone, and just based on his own research, which is infallible. His version can't be infallible, and everyone else's is that the record is illegitimate, and because he's writing a book about it, that this record should be expunged. And like I said, I'm kind of saddened that the guy that you guys can check in the description for the video, which makes the entire case against Todd Rogers, and then I'm gonna leave a link inside the description as well, where Kotaku pretty much gets the game developer who made the actual game himself, who says, "Nah, the record's legitimate." So you get the two sides of the stories, and then you guys can listen to one side and read the other side, and then you can formulate your own opinion on the whole case. But let me take this time, because I want to go to the crowd right now, and I want to kind of like go into the community and get some questions, no, statements from the community about this stuff. So Zura, what I would like to do is we're gonna bring them in one at a time, because I don't want a bunch of people in here and they're just all talking over each other. So I'll pick them out, and then you invite them into the room, and then we'll get their statements and their opinion on the whole matter, and then we can then remove them from the room and then bring in the next person. So can we get Ariel Oblivion in here? We'll get his statement.
Try
on
it,
this.
if I may, before we
Yeah.
do that. I just want to say something. Like,
Sure.
a lot of people need to realize, with computers versus humans, like as a species, computers have limitations based on their programming and their software and the actual hardware. Humans as a species consistently develop better and faster, whether it's physically, mentally, or anything. So humans don't really have limitations, because over time humans just get better. But if you give an old computer a new software update, eventually it's not going to run properly, because the computer doesn't evolve along with its software. Whereas a human does. A human's physical body and capabilities will evolve alongside of its mental capacity as time goes on. And that's what's difference between humans and computers.
Okay. All right. Well, before we bring Oblivion in here, I would like to get Zuru your statement on what Super Nintendo said about computers. As I said, you're the expert here in software engineering and hardware engineering, because that's what you do, write codes and all that other stuff. But your thoughts on what Super Nintendo said about the evolution of computers and all that stuff.
Well, evolution of computers is a really long topic, and alongside the evolution of man is it's the same. You pretty much cover the base of evolution is like being better every time, and uh, with a long, prolonged time. So Evolution is basically us being better and machines being better over time, and that we already been seeing because let's date a couple years back, we
Mhm.
still had computers that were in an entire room producing a lot of heat and using a lot of electricity, and nowadays we have thousands of those computers that we can carry over in our pockets called cell phones.
Remember that the everyone that's watching the stream, the cell phone you're carrying or that's sitting next to you on your desk is probably 100 times more powerful than the computer that got the astronauts on the moon back in the 40s or whatever. So just remember that.
Oh, and so let me ask you. So Zero, and that's actually I believe that Zero. We had a discussion about the difference between emulators, the spreadsheet that he's using, which is an emulator, correct?
No,
Oh, it's not. Okay.
uh, it's not an emulator. It's more like the ideal condition in an ideal environment in a perfect hardware.
But then that's linear then so it's everything's created in a sandbox, and so there's no room for any type of outside interference, there's no human element, there's no nothing. It's just like you said, an ideal. So then
Mhm.
there's these restrictions, these parameters in which you have to go by only alone. Well, of course he's not going to get the record that way. Of course the computer is not going to be able to find out the record if it's been limited.
Exactly, because it uses the ideal human input, it uses the ideal hardware, the ideal conditions of the hardware itself, which is based on what the chip is supposed to do, and the components itself what they are supposed to do. It doesn't take in consideration oscillators degradation, temperature,
Ano-
wear, time,
anomalies.
and no, exact those four can create anomalies inside the system or glitches because the Atari 2600 or pretty much any console or video game console up to the Super Nintendo didn't even use an operating system. They work on hardware and software that talks directly to the hardware using assembly.
But his spreadsheet is using a OS.
No,
Oh, it's not.
no. It's not that it uses an OS. It uses the ideal conditions and the perfect hardware simulation.
But it's running on a computer with an OS to be able to do that.
You can say that, no, but it's more like
Mhm.
we're getting fixed numbers
Think of it this way,
instead of
Triforce.
a variant number because of a different scenarios that could happen.
Think of it this way, Triforce. It's like when you're in think back to the high school or whatever, when you're in science class, you always have to try different things. The spreadsheet isn't it's going off of okay, let's say all these variables are the exact same every single time, but it doesn't factor in the possibility that someone might be able to go outside of that variable's bounds and add something that it didn't originally plan for. And he's not even willing to change his spreadsheet. He's just, no, this is the right way. This is how it's done. The end.
And I got that. And this is the last thing I want to bring up. So so Zuru, oh, this is the best part. I want to save this part for last. So Zuru, um, so his spreadsheet is based on a particular code of a particular Atari 2600 and the game, or just the game? What is the code based on? Just the game?
No, it's based on hardware emulation,
Hmm.
which is the base of the spreadsheet or ideal scenario, and it's also based on what the game is supposed to do, which is output a number over a certain time or output like a certain distance over a certain time. It's just a function.
All right.
So,
Okay.
mhm.
So that here's my question. How many versions of the Atari 2600 were manufactured? Different versions from the original print.
Well, if we're saying different versions of the box itself, it's
Hmm.
more than four. Different variants, different knobs, different buttons. But there were different revisions to different motherboards for one single console, and that one single console had the original, the one with the wood, had more than 15 revisions.
So the question here is, which revision is he using virtually?
Probably revision 13.
Now, which version was Todd playing on physically? And this is exactly the point we are talking about, the variance that he did not take into consideration in his calculations. Am I correct on saying that?
Exactly. And that is one of the conditions. They're all follow a same spreadsheet, which is motherboard CO 12283 revision B.
Mhm.
But different revisions of the motherboard were made due to the fact that, oh, this oscillator runs too hot, we need to downgrade the voltage and stuff like that, and those kind of changes also had to modify voltage regulation on other sides of the motherboard so it runs at the same speed.
That's it.
Because if you change the speed or voltage of one oscillator, let's say if you change Y2, which is located on the sectors T48 820F, which is the address, if you change that value
Mhm.
by 0.01 voltages, it can change its megahertz from 4.433618 to 4.5, and that will actually change the output result on the calculations on what the CPU had to do, and also the time when it needs to display the information. Because, like I said, Atari 2600 didn't run on an operating system or doesn't have anything that can actually check for errors. Software at that time was so old, so archaic. So there were no try catches, all runs on assembly code, which is talks directly to the hardware on address base. CPUs were limited on how many bits they can do, and bits, it's basically just another topic at hand that we can just discuss later, which is
Mm.
super extensive. And these address numbers we have here, let's say on a chip of 64 bits, which is Nintendo 64, and Nintendo 64 also running kind of parallelly on hardware talking because it uses cartridges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But well, I'll give you an example. Do you remember the Super FX chip on the Super Nintendo, right?
Yeah, the one that's used for Star Fox.
Exactly. Do
Mhm.
you know that you can actually overclock the cartridge?
No, I didn't know that. Well, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I'm not an expert in this field.
Well, here it
Okay.
is the thing, and there is a crystal oscillator, a quartz crystal oscillator.
Mm.
You can change that uses a higher frequency.
Mhm.
You can actually fix the game lagginess from 15 frames per second all the way to 30 just by
Mm.
changing one single component. So imagine tear and wear and voltage regulations and variations over the motherboards. They can change the result and output of a game entirely.
Wow. And see, I just don't understand why you don't need to be a software engineer graduate to understand that there's there's so many different variance conditions, anomalies that can happen to have come to that conclusion. I just feel like the guy was just so into himself and his work that he felt that he is not wrong and cannot be wrong. And that's that to me. I'm just like, because in my experience in the classic gaming scene, if someone feels that you're cheating, it is a crusade. It is literally a witch hunt. It becomes a religion, a cult, literally, to track you down and crucify you because of their belief. It's like these people cannot take into consideration the, these these just you just don't know. But enough of that. We keep kept some of our guys on wait. Let's bring Oblivion in here. Let's hear what Oblivion have to say. We'll get a couple of questions and answer, and we'll try to answer them, and then we'll call it for the night on this topic. So yeah, Oblivion, are you in here?
I'm moving him.
Are you moving them? Okay.
Welcome, my friend.
Welcome, Oblivion. So what's your thoughts on the entire situation based on what you saw us talking about regarding Todd Rogers' record?
Welcome, my friend.
Welcome, Oblivion.
I
What's
can
Uh,
that's can do.
situation based on what you? Oh well, yeah,
So
Oblivion. You would have to pause your stream or turn off the
I
sound
did.
of your stream. Okay, go on.
Okay. The way I see the situation, I see it in a different light. Like, everyone is comparing it like in like other video games and type stuff. I'm seeing it in the eyes of a filmmaker
Hmm.
and how someone could be accused of stealing others' like concept of a film.
Oh, but
Like, it's not necessarily like the same idea, but
mhm.
it's similar.
So
So,
who are you saying is stealing the ideal of the film?
uh, like it's just in general, like whenever someone creates a film, like they have an idea and
Mhm.
then they like create it, but they don't realize that someone years prior had already made that same idea in the
Oh,
same film.
okay. So that's what you're saying. This Omni Gamer guy, that's that's kind of like where he's coming from. That he feels like, okay, he knows about the game, uh, but he doesn't know that there's a guy who knows about the game far more extensive than he is. But he's upset, and he thinks his understanding of the game is correct, and that the other person's wrong, or that they're lying, or that they've cheated. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily like the it could be like the outside perspective of someone saying, "Oh, this person did it before, but then this new guy came up and came out with the idea, but their idea is flawed because it's already happened."
Ah,
And
okay.
what he's trying to get at is like saying that the new guy, like the old person who made it before, has to come up and remake it or make a new idea to combat what was just previously done not too long ago.
I get what you're coming from, but here, my question to you on this: Do you think Todd should? Do you think Todd should repeat it,
No,
and why?
because he's already done it before. There should be no reason in which someone should be forced to redo something they've done previously just because of time. Like, no one can recreate the same thing over time because it could be that new hardware comes out. Like, I'm still going back to the film. Like, it could be that new stuff comes out and like you got to learn it because the old stuff can't compete with the new.
Hmm. I kind of agree with that as well. That, and I also take into consideration the whole reality regarding like Todd's age. I just I can't see how anyone would expect Todd to actually want to redo this after 35 years. That's just foolishness in itself. Like this is just so foolishness. All right,
Also
go
in
on.
uh
Mhm.
w- also in, like in the filmmaker way, anyone who is a director over time, because they're looking through very tiny scopes to catch a full perspective, they lose eyesight. And so it's the same thing with like gaming, like you lose function in your hands that you had previously. Like, you're just getting torn down as you're getting older and older.
And that's actually, trust me. That's I say to you guys. You guys see me stream when I'm trying to teach you guys like some of these old school games and stuff like this. I'm telling you, when you guys go, "Oh, Triforce, you're godlike," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." The what I used to be able to do, I I I don't want to say I can't, but the effort that was required is far more than what it did when I was younger because I was sharper, my reflexes is better. But I can tell you for a fact I am nowhere near as good as I used to be. I'm 40 years old. I don't think people understand that. Like I'm 40 years old. And if I'm 40 and my skills degrade, imagine Todd and he's 50 plus. Come on, man. Like, let's behave ourselves here. All right. Thank you, Zuru. I'm not Zuru Oblivion. Thank you for your insight on the situation. Let's bring in Speed Gamer Inc. And let's get his thoughts on the situation. And after that, we'll take Angel, and then I guess we'll wrap this up for the night, and we'll move on to our other stuff later on in a different segment. So let's bring Speed in here. Okay, Speed, are you here? Oh, he hasn't joined yet. Okay, where's Speed? All right, there
Okay.
we go. Hey, Speed. All right, so you're one of the younger guys of this. You're actually from this generation, what they call it, the millennials or millennial. I don't know how to pronounce that. All right, based on
Millennial.
millennial. Okay, so uh, based on what we've discussed, what's your thoughts on the situation? What's your thoughts on a person who has, who's trying
I
to
feel like
go on, go on. I'm sorry, go on.
I feel like the guy who's doing all this, I think he's just trying to start something so he can probably find out how he does it. So then once he learns how to do it, he can teach everyone else how to do it. And once someone else knows how to do it, they can steal the idea.
You see this kid right here? This is the one thing I like about kids, right? How old are you, Speed?
14.
The younger generation sometimes see we're going to kind of slightly change this topic slightly. What you just said, Speed, is a ongoing conversation with a lot of elders in the classic gaming scene, which we all mention a lot of times. That this is the whole thing what Yipes said, the coming up of people. A lot of people will say this record is delegitimate. This has happened to me before. This record's delegitimate. This record's not true. This record's false. This blah blah blah. And then it forces you to reveal your secret of how you got the record. And the minute you reveal what you did to get the record, guess what? Your record's beaten instantaneously by somebody else. And then this person is getting recognition, which they do deserve, but it's not fair because
He
they,
did it first.
it's not about who did it first. It's about why was a person able to do it now. Here's an example. Donkey Kong. Steve Sanders, Billy Mitchell, and all those guys, the king of Kongs. These guys have been playing Donkey Kong for 30 something years. They've set records in the game from 1981 all the way till, let's say, 2007. Donkey Kong was never a big thing until the movie The King of Kong came out. When that movie came out, it brought up so much controversy about the game and the whole Billy Mitchell versus Steve Wiebe and whatnot that videos on YouTube started popping up about how they play. There's even a video of how there's a side by side comparison of how Billy Mitchell plays and how Steve Wiebe plays, and there's commentaries that's breaking down the game into a science that was never been able to be done back then because we didn't have access to the computers and the internet like how we do now. These strategies and things that was made was done in pamphlets and little notebooks. Steve Sanders wrote a book, a book on Donkey Kong, the secrets to Donkey Kong and stuff like that. And it was until in this generation, in 2007, 8, 9, and after the whole King of Kong film came out, that all of this tech on the game came out. And these random people, and I call them random because they never exist, came out of nowhere and started playing the game. And all of a sudden, they started beating Billy's record, beating Steve's record. They pushed the record from 1 million to 1.1 to 1.2, and now they're getting to the max out perfect game. But you have to ask yourself a question. Were any of these people who were starting to beat these records in the game, were any of them truly proficient at the game based on their, oh, here's Donkey Kong. Let me put my quarter in. Do no 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 no, and they played it, got good at the game, mastered the game, created their own strategy, beat the record, or did they just go, oh wow, Donkey Kong's the new thing that's happening right now. That's the new thing popping out in these virtual streets of video games. Let me read up on the tech, get all of this information that took these guys years and hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars in quarters to create these texts. These guys get it in a YouTube video in 10 minutes. Then they sit there, they play on an emulator at home or on a makeshift board to try to kind of re-emulate what happened in the arcade, master it in less than a year, come out and then beat the masters that set the original record, which is, and then now they have a name for themselves and they celebrate themselves as if they're masters, and in reality they are not. And yes, I'm calling out a lot of you frauds in Donkey Kong. You guys are, except for the old guys who've been playing back then and you saw a way to reinvent yourself by getting back into the action, you guys are exempt from it. But a lot of you new guys, don't even act like it, because if you guys are under the age of 30, you're full of it, because you guys do not play Donkey Kong. You guys play Xbox, PlayStation, and if you're even in Nintendo, at worst, Wii or GameCube. But you guys don't come up off the era in which those guys are. You guys are not interested in the old school games like that. It's disingenuous interest in the game. You're only interested in the game because it popped up in a movie, and dudes is like, here's an opportunity for me to shine, so they jump on it. So I completely 100% agree with you when you say that, and you're a kid saying this, and you can see even that. You can even see that, and you're 14 years old. This is a guy making a book talking about impossible records, or records that can't 10 the top 10 records that can't be beaten. One record, the guy's a software engineer, whatever his profession is. He puts out a thing about the game, and he thinks, oh, okay, yeah, this is my analysis, and based on my analysis, even I'm not even going to take in any other variants that could possibly happen. This record is illegitimate based on my profession in the field, and it cannot be questioned, and blah 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 blah. And it's to sell his book. Like, let's keep it real. This is to sell a book.
Here's the thing, like,
This
if every single person knows how to do something, it takes away from the merit of being the first to do it, because all of a sudden every single person can do it. Who cares if you were the first?
And see,
The sad thing.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm going. Go on.
The sad thing is, I'm Speed, right? I watch the speed running community. Some people in the speed running community purposely do stuff like this to find out the glitches, to speed run the game faster and make it look like it's just tech. People do this a lot these days, and I really don't like that. Saying I'd rather just do a speed run, no glitches, where you don't have to fraud and take someone's ideas and then just get more points at the end of the game and look like you were the better person. I don't think that's a good thing to do. It makes you look bad, but then they don't even get the credit, the guys who originally do it. It's just messed up.
And you know something? Thank you for that input, Speed. That was a very good insight. I'm glad that actually came from you, because you're from this generation. So it's not something no one can say, oh, it's a bunch of old guys complaining about something. I'm glad you were able to see that as crystal day. There's a future for you yet. Your brain has not been contaminated. You can still use your your critical thinking and your cognitive thinking. But let's bring in another person here. I want to bring in, like I said, I want to bring in Angel, and I guess I'll take two more. Um, let's Joe Light's in here, so I definitely want to bring Joe Light in here. So let's bring in Angel right now. We're gonna get Angel's opinion on this, and then we'll take Angel, and then who else are we gonna take? Who's gonna take one more person? Oh, I can't see him. And the machine gun. Oh, Radical Jet. Let's get Angel and Radical Jet in. Angel, Radical Jet, and Joe Light, and then we'll be done with that because we went over our time limit. So yeah, and I definitely want to bring in Joe Light now. Okay, well, because what he just messaged me. So can you bring in Angel right now? Hello, we have Angel in here. Hey, Angel, what's going on?
How you doing, y'all? I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
okay. So your thoughts on the entire situation regarding Todd's record and so forth.
Everyone's made valid points, and the one overseeing point that I see is the book. A book needs a body of work. So everybody's point that they're saying right now is what he's going to use in his book to make his book interesting. Oh, this guy cheated. Oh, he's gonna teach him the real tech now. He's gonna put all this in his book and create a very interesting book to the masses. I'm not saying it's interesting to me, and I'm not saying it's interesting to EMP and the real people that understand that this book is full of. But the book can't just be one topic. He's going to have a whole bunch of bodies. So what Speed said was facts. I think that's going to be in the book. The basis of the book is going to be that this guy cheated, Todd cheated. You feel what I'm saying? And then there's going to be other bases of the book to try to discredit Todd and credit him. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I think. I think all these points are going to be in the book, because everyone's saying, oh, he's going to make a book, but that's not the only thing that he's doing. That's correct. He's going to have all these points in his book. His book is going to be full of a whole bunch of, and that's how I feel. And I'm sorry for my language, but
Oh, don't worry about it. We want people's real opinions, and I'll chime that off as you just being passionate about the situation.
Yeah, that's a fact.
All right, but hey, listen. If he uses the stuff that's in this conversation for his book, then it's whatever.
No,
At least,
no, not the stuff in the conversation, but the points that we are making, I feel that they're correct. And that's really what he is trying to do. And he's also going to use that as some type of narrative to have more things to write down on pages. You understand what I'm saying? Because a
no.
book has to be filled with something. You know, he can't just continue to reiterate that it was cheating.
Oh, I agree. I 100% agree with that. I'm not even just like and my point is let him use it. Let him
Exactly.
use it.
Because,
Let him
yeah,
use it. All right. We're running down on time, so let me try to
right.
get the last couple of guys, and I don't want to get the last two guys, and I want to get Radical Jet, and then I want to end it off with Joe Light. Joe Light has a very important thing he wants to bring up, and I actually agree with him. So let's get Radical Jet in here. Um, and then we'll end off on Joe Light because I really want to kind of touch off with I want to close this on Joe Light's point. So yeah, let's bring in the other guy in here. So who do we have next? This is Radical Jet, correct? All right, there we go. Radical Jet, welcome.
All
So
right.
yes,
I
you
will make it easy. I'll make it strong. I will, yes, Super Nintendo Bro. I will be PG as ever.
okay?
Because this whole thing, because Rogers did this like live 3 times, right?
Mhm.
Why this guy is thinking, oh, I could do this? It annoys me because it has been 3 times. People has watched it. It's like it is being put in the record books, right?
Yes.
All right, then why is this person is making a big point like, oh, I could do that too? I'm thinking, dude,
No, no,
it's like 2017.
no. I don't think he claimed that he can do it too. I don't think this is about him trying to do it. I don't want us to get to misconstrue what the guy is doing. The guy is writing a book, and in his book, this record is one of the records of his interests, based on his calculations, based on some code program that he wrote. He feels that the record that Todd Rogers has is false because it's impossible to beat. First of all, it's impossible to get. He's saying that the suggestion is being made that Todd Rogers never got the record. That's the thing here. The suggestion is made. And the reason why that suggestion is made is because he in the forums on Twin Galaxies, he went on to say that he doesn't care if the Pope was there to witness Todd Rogers doing it. People lie. So he's accusing Guinness suggest from a suggestive point of view, right? This is indirectly accusing Guinness and accusing Activision of lying for Todd Rogers for the record because the narrative here is that this is the narrative that's being painted, and our next guest who's going to come in here, Joe Light, is going to bring it up. The narrative is being painted that Todd Rogers got the record, went to Guinness to push the record on Guinness and get the record from Guinness, and then go around claiming he did it. When the reality, that is not what Todd did. Todd wanted recognition from Activision itself, the actual company that actually made the game, and there's a like a back then there were like little magazines that whenever you get a world record you could submit your world records to them and whatever the case may be to get your record in the particular magazine. So Todd Rogers just wanted recognition of what he was able to do. That then led to him being able to go to one of the CES events that was in Chicago, and he was just playing games there, and he was able to perform the feat there. That then subsequently caught the attention of Activision, who saw him make the attempt and get the record and invited him out to Detroit for him to do it there again in live in front of a audience and whatnot, in which he was able to do it then. Activision was the one that then submitted that along with his evidence that he submitted in terms of the Polaroid the picture that he took to Guinness, and then Guinness granted the record. Then Activision and Guinness gave Todd the record. Once Todd was like, oh, obviously someone gives you a record, you're gonna be happy. He's like, I'm the world record holder. He's done it. He's done it. He's done it at his home. He provided the evidence to them. He's done it at Chicago, and then he's done it at Detroit. And then there's a third place he did it at, which was a live place. And then years later, he got it to Twin Galaxies, and then Twin Galaxies was able to publish their record in their database. So it's in three different databases now. It's in the creator of the company of the that hosts the game, Activision, Guinness, and Twin Galaxies. So he's done that. The guy is saying that he doesn't care who was there to verify it. It's not possible to get thus someone's lying. This is the narrative that's being painted. I'm not saying he said that, but based on what he's claiming, that's what he's indirectly saying. So this is the folly here. So I don't think he's trying to say he can beat the record. He's just saying based on his calculation and his investigation in on it that it's not possible to get the record and it's false. And I don't mean to cut you here, but this is the perfect time to bring in Joe Light, because Joe Light has something to say regarding this, because of something that I think it was. Let me check what Joe Light is. Thank you for your input on that. Uh, Radical Jet. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you for your input,
don't
Radical
worry.
Jet. Now we have Joe Light in the room, and I want to bring up this part. Let me bring up what he said was Easyscape. There it is. I didn't want to mispronounce their name. So Easyscape wrote an art, did a video, and you guys could check the description there now, and you'll see well, not at this exact second, guys. This is for what I post this online, but you can check the description, and in the description you'll see the link to the Easyscape video that they did on it, and then also you'll see the Kotaku with article which kind of combats the Easyscape the video. But Easyscape literally and physically said that if they can't get any proof to the record, that they need to remove Todd's record. And seeing that's when I think they went a little bit overboard. It is one thing to have your opinion. You want to call it controversy. You want to create a debate. You want to create some type of argument, whatever the case may be. That is fine. But to now sit here and use your media platform, this video almost has 1 million views, but to sit here and use your platform to say you want to strike someone's record that was validated by the authorities that be of the time, because you don't think the person got it, because you aren't satisfied with the evidence provided, that's going too far. Joe Light, chime in on that, please.
Yo, what's up, Triforce?
What's going on, man?
So I just wanted to look at this, right? And you know me, I'm a guy who likes to do his research. So
yes,
I looked into it, and I had to look at what this guy Easy Escape said at the very end of his video. So I wanted to read this quote from it because I just wanted to make a point about it. And I think this is going to clear up a whole lot of stuff and really kind of break everything he basically put out in the video. And I quote, "I and many others want to believe that this record is real, but we're first going to need proof of how this time is possible. It doesn't make sense to have the record for the longest standing video game record if it's impossible for that record to be beaten." Now, I'm sure everyone in the EMP community is cognizant of the fact of that Billy Mitchell has a perfect Pac-Man, and we know that perfect Pac-Man
cannot be
cannot
beaten.
be beaten
Yes.
at all.
Joe
And
Light.
so just comparatively, right? If this person, Easyscape, who whatever knowledge he has, we've already established that Guinness World Records, Activision, everybody has basically confirmed that Todd Rogers has done the record, but this guy wants to dispute it. But beyond that point, what he just said, it doesn't make sense to have the record for the longest standing video game record if it's impossible for that record to be beaten. Basically denounces what Billy Mitchell has done, basically denounces what many people have done in video game history.
With max scores.
Billy Mitchell's record comparatively to Todd Rogers, it cannot be beaten just because it cannot. So what you're saying is if Pac-Man cannot be beaten simply because Billy Mitchell put in the highest score, then that means that his record should be taken down as well. He would have to agree to that. So entirely, this is completely false, and it's just foolishness. I don't understand how this guy is able to say this, and at the same time, I think he just basically destroyed his entire argument with just that. There is no way you can say that it doesn't make sense for the record to be there since it's impossible to be beaten. I don't think he understands what a record actually is. And so, in saying that, I really think that this guy's entire argument just went under the water with that statement, and that's really all I wanted to say.
And you know something, Jolie? I am going to end this entire conversation on your note because that is actually the best point of the night. That is so true. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you guys for joining us in on this rare edition of us. Talk about the state of one of our members in EMP, Todd Rogers. We consider him one of our legacy players for the organization. Todd Rogers, also known as the King of Video Games, Mr. Activision, and so forth, will also be with us at the 35th anniversary of the Life magazine photo shoot at the 36th anniversary of Twin Galaxies in Ottumwa, Iowa, in the video game capital of the world, Ottumwa, Iowa, later on this year. Thank you guys for joining in on us. If you like this, please subscribe, share, and like. We would like to do more stuff on this whenever we have topics regarding our organization and any of our players and stuff like that. And we will see you guys later. Good night.